Kevin Hanley, your screen's very blurry.
Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe you got to wipe the camera.
Let me try it. Hold on.
You don't breathe too heavy on the camera. Here's Rudy.
Rudy, come on yet?
Yeah, Rudy just got on.
There he is.
He's not unmuted though.
Hey, Rudy.
Hi, Rob. How's that? Can you hear me?
Yep.
I hear you now.
Okay.
We're just
How are
waiting for Melissa to come on.
I just got a text she said she doesn't have the Zoom link.
What happened?
I sent her the invite. She needs to check her junk mail.
Were you going to just send it to her again? I get a text here, Maureen.
The problem is I have to go onto our VPN to get into my work email.
You know what? Hold on. Let me.
Tell her to check her junk email.
I will do that.
I sent it to her Wyckoff, her usual Wyckoff email. Sometimes the first time you get the invite from Zoom, it winds up in your junk email box.
Let me send this to her.
It's 16%.
I can forward it.
To Data George Kelly May.
I think I sent it out on Monday, so it might have gotten buried in all of her emails.
Okay, hold
You
on.
just sent the reminder out a little while ago, though, right, Maureen?
It automatically, I have Zoom set up to automatically send it 1 hour before.
Okay.
So I don't physically do it.
Oh,
Rob, I'm going to just log out real quick and try to log in from my computer. If it doesn't work, I'll log right back into my phone.
Okay.
I cleaned off the camera. I don't know if it's any better. It might be the lighting in the room.
Oh, you look great, Kevin. Oh, man.
I
What a
have a
job.
tie on and everything. So there you go.
No pants, right?
This month I did decide, because it's a reorganization meeting, that I'd come with pants.
Thank God.
Too much information.
you never know though in these meetings.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Let me
We don't want to
forward.
scare away the new members.
Hello, George.
Hello.
Hey, George.
Hey, George.
How are things in the Bahamas, George?
There's Melissa.
Oh, you're home. Wow.
Mexico.
There
This
she
week.
is.
Sorry about that.
Was it in your junk email?
It was.
Okay, good. So we're good to go. Okay.
Hey, Melissa.
Gang's all here.
Just waiting for Kevin Pervin to get back on. Just give him.
Oh, right.
Everybody who said they were coming, Maureen, is on
We are
now.
live on YouTube, just so everybody knows.
Rob, did you ever
What was
connect
that?
with Matt Good?
I did. I spoke to him a couple days ago. Thanks. Nice guy.
Good.
I just got a message that my internet connection is not stable, and I have full bars. So I hope.
You know what I'll do, Maureen? I got to read this opening statement and all. So why don't we get started?
Yeah.
Kevin Pervin should be back on in a minute. So.
Yeah, it's going to take you a couple of minutes to do that anyway.
Okay. So, please take, should I read the Open Public Meetings Act first?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sec, and in consideration of Executive Order 103 issued by Governor Murphy on March 9, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey. The Planning Board of the Township of Wykoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the Planning Board of the Township of Wykoff, scheduled for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, will be conducted virtually through the Zoom video conferencing application, and it will be live streamed on the Township of Wykoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30 and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. These measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call in technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting is posted on the Wykoff website's homepage at www.wykoff-nj.com as a quote news item. Excuse me, the January 13, 2021 work session of the Wykoff Planning Board is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears on the annual schedule of meetings. Copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. Copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News, all newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wykoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. Members of the public may observe the meeting by following the instructions posted on the Wykoff website as a news item. In accordance with Section 7A of the Open Public Meetings Act, participation on the part of the public will not be entertained during the work session. Okay, this is a reorganization meeting, so I guess the first thing we need to do are to administer the oaths of office to the new members,
We're
Frank
gonna do a roll call.
Dansky, and then to the continuing members. You want to take over, Kevin?
Yeah, but do we have to do a roll call first?
No, afterward.
Afterwards? Okay, fine. Very good. Well, it's my pleasure to administer the oath to our two new members and our three continuing members. I'd like to start with our new members. And I think what we're going to do is do them individually. So we'll do May first, and then we'll do Frank second. Okay, so May, would you raise your right hand? Okay, I, May Bogdansky,
I, May Bogdansky,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
and I will bear
True faith
true faith and of the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments
and to the governments
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
And I, May Bogdansky,
And I, May Bogdansky,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully
impartially,
and impartially
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the office of Planning Board
of the office of Planning Board
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Frank. Welcome aboard.
Okay, Frank, raise your right hand, please. I, Frank Sedita,
Frank Sedita,
do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
and that I will bear true faith
I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And I, Frank Sedita,
I, Frank Sedita,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the planning board
of the planning board
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Frank. Welcome aboard.
Now, next we'll swear in Glenn Seetsma, George Alexandru, and is Scott here?
He's not here.
Okay, so we'll put Scott aside. We'll do the two of you together.
Kevin, I know I need to be sworn in again because I'm a continuing member.
Okay, well.
Oh, Anna didn't give me your oath. So you weren't sworn in on the first of the year
No,
at the reorg? Okay.
we didn't do any of that. And I believe Melissa, the mayor, needs to be sworn in as well.
Okay, well, in that case, then we'll have Glenn, George, and Rudy. And we'll have to get Scott at a later date.
And
And
Melissa.
And
Melissa
Melissa.
as well.
Oh, we have Melissa here, so I guess we'll have all four. All
We'll do a forfeit.
right,
That's
I just had the three.
Anna only gave me the three. I assume.
All right, well, that's fine. In this case, I'll just say I state your
No.
name and then,
There you go.
so
There you
we're
go.
gonna, everybody,
That's fine.
Glenn, George, Melissa, and Rudy, please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
Glenn
I,
Seats.
Rudy Vogt.
Hi, Melissa Rubenstein.
George Alexandru.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly
Solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the
Support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
Bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the
and
same,
allegiance to the
and
same,
to the governments established in the United States
And
to the governments established in the United States
and to the government established in the United States
and in this state,
and this state.
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
Authority of the people.
and in the state,
So help me God.
So help me God.
And I
and
state
to
your
the
name.
Like
And
Glenn
I, George Alexandra,
Do
So help
solemnly
me God.
swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
affirm.
that I will faithfully,
and I'm Melissa
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
do
justly
solemnly
perform
swear or affirm
all the duties of the office of planning board
that I will
all the duties of the
faithfully
office of the planning
office of
board,
Planning board.
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
impart
So help me God.
To help me God.
and justly perform
Okay, congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, Kevin.
So we
all
just
the
have
duties
to follow up with Scott.
Okay. All right. Congratulations to the new members. Welcome aboard, May and Frank. It's good to have you aboard. We look forward to working with you. And welcome to all the returning members too. And
Melissa is on a delay.
yeah, Melissa, your audio is a little delayed, but anyway, let's welcome Melissa aboard. She's going to congratulate her on her appointment as mayor. It's good to have you aboard, Melissa, as well. And I guess
All right.
actually we have to do the roll call now.
Thank
So,
you.
Maureen, why don't you proceed with the roll call?
Ms.
Thank
Conlon,
you.
Here.
Mr. Sedita.
Here.
Mr. Homechak,
Here.
Mr. Fisher, Mr. Seetsma,
Here?
Mr. Boonstra,
Here.
Mr. Alexandru,
Here.
Ms. Bogdansky,
Here.
Mr. Pervin,
Here.
Mayor Rubenstein,
Sorry, here.
Chairman Fortunato.
Here. So welcome aboard, everybody. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. Just a word of thanks to our departing members, John On and Anthony Riotto. Just want to acknowledge their service in the past and thank them for their work on the planning board. Welcome to the new members. And the first order of business with the reorganization meeting is the election of officers. So first, we need to elect a chairman. And then we'll do a vice chairman. Can I have a nomination for chairman?
I would nominate Rob Fortunato as chairman of the planning board.
Second.
Mr. Pervin, Mr. Alexandru?
Yes.
Correct.
Thank you. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Sedita? Mr. Sedita, yea or nay? Mr. Homichak?
Yes.
Mr. Seetsma?
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Pervin?
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru?
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky?
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein?
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato, do you vote on your own nomination?
I'll abstain.
Ah,
Thank you for your continued confidence in me,
He's
guys.
not going to vote for himself. We have a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
You guys have more confidence in me than I do myself, so be a problem. Anyway, thank you for the continued confidence, guys. Can we have a nomination for vice chairman, please?
I nominate Kevin Pervin for vice chair.
Second.
Mr. Homichak and Mr. Alexandru?
Yes.
Correct.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Sedita?
Yes.
Mr. Homichak?
Yes.
Mr. Seetsma?
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru?
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky?
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein?
Yes.
Pervin?
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato?
Yes. Yes. Okay, the next order of business. Congratulations, Kevin.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
The next item of business is resolution number 21-001 for appointment of Kevin Hanley as the planning board attorney. Can I have a motion in favor?
Motion.
Second. Mike.
Second.
George and Mike.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Sedita? Mr. Homichak?
Yes.
Mr. Seetsma?
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mr. Pervin?
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru?
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky?
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein?
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato?
Yes. Okay, the next item is the appointment of board secretary. Can we have a nomination for Maureen as board secretary?
I
I'll
nominate
do it.
Maureen Mitchell as board
Second.
secretary.
Homichak? Alexandru?
Yep.
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Sedita?
Yes.
Mr. Homichak?
Yes.
Mr. Seetsma?
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mr. Pervin?
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru?
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky?
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein?
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato?
Yes. Okay,
I'm so
congratulations, Kevin.
surprised.
Maureen, thanks for your continuing service.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. We need to acknowledge that the annual notice of meetings has been posted for the year. We need to adopt a continuation of the current rules and regulations. We need to recognize the official newspapers as the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News. And we need to accept the annual report that was attached to the planning board agenda, which was a synopsis of what we accomplished last year and then in the preceding years. Can I have a motion to approve all of those?
I'll make a motion to approve all.
Second.
Glenn, Mr. Seetsma and Mr. Alexandru?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Sedita? Mr. Homechak?
Yes.
Mr. Seetsma?
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mr. Pervin?
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru?
Yep.
Ms. Baldansky?
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein?
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
We're moving forward with the approval of December 9th, 2020 work session and regular business minutes. We'll start with the work session. Does anybody have any comments on those or any changes? Okay, hearing none, moving on to the regular business minutes. Does anybody have any comments or changes on those? Hearing none for either, can I have a motion to approve both the December 9th, 2020 work session and the regular business minutes?
Motion to approve both work session and business minutes from the December 9th meeting.
Second.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Homechak?
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru?
Yep.
The two new board members obviously were not at the meeting, so I'm not going to call on them. Mr. Seetsma, you were absent. Mayor Rubenstein, you were not present. Chairman Fortunato?
Yes. Okay, the only item we have on the agenda is the Awad matter, which is 490 Vance Avenue, which we deemed incomplete at the last meeting. The
Dimitrakiou.
Dimitraki.
You want me to help you with that?
George, I should have let you handle that one. That's 802 Albemarle Street. That one has been adjourned, and that's on for the next meeting. What's the date of the February meeting, please, Maureen?
Wednesday, February 10th.
Okay, so that matter is on for Wednesday, February 10th. And at the regular meeting, I will re-announce that, but there will not need to be any new renotice on that, correct, Mr. Hanley?
They have already
That's
noticed.
right. That's correct.
Okay, so the only matter that we'll need to address now and then, assuming it's up for completeness, and if it's deemed complete, is the Awad matter, and it will be heard if it's deemed complete at the work session, it will be heard at the regular business meeting. So I know there's been some developments since the last meeting on this. And Mr. DeGennaro, I know you prepared a new memo on this. Looks like it's dated, it was originally November 18th, and then it was revised on December 2nd, and then again on January 11th, 2021. Can you bring us through your memo, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations all board members. Happy New Year. 490 Vance Avenue is a continuation from the last meeting in response to the comments that we had at the last discussion for the completeness hearing, as well as responses to my reports. The applicant has addressed all of the issues that I've identified and resubmitted plans for both the septic and the site plans. They've also satisfied my review of the landscape plan. And just to recap for those that weren't here last month, we'll just read this into the record as to what the proposal is all about. It's the property is located in the RA 25 zone, and it's on a conforming lot. The applicant has demolished the existing structure and is proposing to improve the property to construct a new dwelling with a circular driveway, install a new 5-bedroom septic system, and alter the grading of the property, resulting in soil fill in excess of 100 cubic yards, which requires planning board approval under Chapter 186-22H. Currently, as the plan was revised, the plan proposes to remove approximately 49 trees from the property as stated on the plan. Site inspection was performed by myself and Mr. Sietsma on Monday. And we walked the site and looked at all of the trees that were being proposed or are being proposed to be removed. And I think what we'll do is we'll have some comment and discussion from Mr. Sietsma as well to share his opinion as to what our findings were. As far as I'm concerned,
Mark, was the applicant present when you guys walked the property?
no,
It
no,
was just you two?
yes.
Okay.
As far as the engineering review is concerned, I take no exception. If the board is satisfied and would like to deem the application complete, I would support that. I just have the only recommendations is that prior to any approval, we have to get the septic design approval from the township. There's a couple things that I have to deal with the design engineer, which is routine things that are not relevant for discussion at the board meeting. And just the approval of the Bergen County Soil Conservation Service shall be a condition of approval. I believe they filed, but I didn't see a letter yet, so I'm not sure if it's in review.
Okay. Yeah, we can make it, if the application's approved, we can make it conditioned on
Sure.
receipt of those two items.
Yep.
They
Okay.
did file.
Oh, they did. Okay.
They
Yes.
did file.
Okay. Okay, so it's, I know there were a number of items that were incomplete at the last meeting. It sounds like they've satisfied all of the requirements that we had asked for, and Mr. DeGennaro is satisfied.
Right, just, Mr. Chairman, as part of the application that I received and reviewed, there was a certification of taxes paid, a property owner's permission form, a certification stating that there were no known restrictions or covenants of record, and authorization by the owners to file the application. I think those were the items that were missing, some of the items that were missing last time. Mr. DeGennaro dealt with the other outstanding issues.
So you're satisfied from the legal standpoint, Mr. Hanley, that it's complete for purposes of the legal requirements?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay, very good. Does anybody have any comments, questions at this point on the application? If not, can I have a motion to deem this matter complete? At which point it'll be heard at the regular meeting.
Motion to deem complete.
Second.
George and Mike.
Thank you. Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Sedita,
Yes.
Mr. Homechak,
Yes.
Mr. Sietsma,
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra,
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru,
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mr. Pervin,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
is everybody frozen?
I think Maureen
Mayor
froze.
Rubenstein?
Maureen, you froze up for a moment.
Yes.
You got Melissa's vote.
Yes, Chairman Fortunato.
Yes.
Everybody
Okay.
froze up on me for a minute there.
Okay, we don't have any further business at for the work session. I think it's 8, so we can roll right into the regular meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn the work session?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, I'm George.
George and Mike.
I'm sorry.
George made the motion and Mike seconded it.
Everybody was frozen. I may have to move to another location in my house. Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Sedita,
Yes.
Mr. Homechak,
Yes.
Mr. Sietsma,
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra,
Yes.
Mr. Pervin,
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru,
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein,
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato.
Yes. Okay, I have 8:01 on the clock, so we can roll right into the public meeting. Let me read these preliminary statements. Maureen, do I have to read the Open Public Meetings Act again?
I'm sorry, I've been told you do.
Should I? Okay, no problem. Okay, so please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 at SEC, and in consideration of the Executive Order Number 103 issued by Governor Murphy on March 9th, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey, the Planning Board of the Township of Wyckoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the Planning Board of the Township of Wyckoff scheduled for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, will be conducted virtually through the Zoom video conferencing application, and it will be live streamed on the Township of Wyckoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30, and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. These measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call-in technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting is posted on the Wyckoff website's homepage at www.wyckoff-nj.com as a news item. The January 13th, 2021 public meeting of the Wyckoff Planning Board is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. Copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News. All newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wyckoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. All applicants are hereby reminded that your application, if approved, may be subject to the terms, conditions, and payment of the affordable housing development fee requirements of the township. Information can be obtained from the code of the Township of Wyckoff, Chapter 113-8 on the township's website, www.wyckoff-nj.com. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Okay, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Let me share my screen.
I have a flag here if we need it. You have a
I
flag?
got it.
Oh, great.
All right.
Here we go.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States.
The United States of America and to the republic which it stands,
One
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Hello again, everybody. Just to go over the old business, the work session, we swore in. Oh, actually, we need a roll call, Maureen.
Ms. Conlon.
Here.
Mr. Sedita.
Here.
Mr. Homechak.
here.
Mr. Seetsma.
Here.
Mr. Boonstra.
Here.
Mr. Pervin.
Here.
Mr. Alexandru.
Here.
Ms. Bogdansky.
Here.
Mayor Rubenstein.
Here.
Chairman Fortunato.
Here. Okay, so
Hello.
we administered the oath of office to May Bogdansky and Frank Sedita. They're welcome to board as new members, and we welcome board Melissa Rubenstein, who's been appointed as attorney, and the returning members whose terms were up and needed to be renewed took their oaths. So everybody should be in good standing now. We had an election of officers. I was reelected chairman, and Kevin Pervin was elected vice chairman. And resolution number 21-001 was approved at the work session, which reappointed Kevin Hanley as planning board attorney. And Maureen was reappointed as board secretary at the work session. And then we voted to, in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, we approved the annual notice of meetings that has been posted. We continued the current rules and regulations. We acknowledge the official newspapers as the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News for postings, and we accepted the annual report. Furthermore, during the work session, we approved the December 9th, 2020 work session and regular business minutes. And finally, we did approve the Awad matter for completion, which is 490 Vance Avenue. And it will be the only matter that's heard this evening, as the Dimitriakou matter, 802 Albemarle Street, has been adjourned until Wednesday, February, what's the date, Maureen?
10. The 10th.
Wednesday, February 10th. So that matter will not be heard this evening. There will be no renoticing, and that is scheduled for Wednesday, February 10th. So with that being said, we are ready to proceed to our first application, which is the Rita and Mary Awad matter, 490 Vance Avenue. I believe Mr. Suresti is here, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Hey,
Members of
Mr.
the board.
Suresti, how are you?
Good, very good, thanks.
The floor is yours. You can proceed.
Okay, so if I may just introduce the application, we have two witnesses this evening. We have Peter Khalil, who is the architect. If you recall, at the completeness hearing on December the 9th, there was a request that we submit an architectural design or drawing to demonstrate the elevation on all four sides of the building, the height to the ridge, as well as the materials in the rear of the building. So tonight, we're going to have Peter Khalil testify on those aspects of it. We did submit the architectural drawings to the board. In addition, we have Perry Frenzel, who is an engineer from Mazzolini and Fury. If I may just preliminarily introduce the application, it's a rather simple application for the construction of a single-family dwelling at 490 Vance Avenue. The property exceeds the minimum requirement. We're roughly about 3/4 of an acre at 31,000 square feet, so the property is very substantial. As a result of the significance of that substantial property size, the zoning data that we provide you demonstrates that we can meet all the zoning requirements of the township, so that the construction of this dwelling does not require any variance, neither for height, bulk, density. It meets all the requirements of the local ordinance. The property itself has a width of about 125 feet and a depth of about 252 feet. As we stated, the property is in the R25 zone. And, we have, I'm going to first call my first witness, will be Perry Frenzel, if he's available on, Perry, are you available? Is he in the Zoom?
He's not on video.
Okay, Perry, can you hear me?
He really should have joined by video, I
Right.
think, if he's going to give sworn testimony. Right, Kevin?
Well, he's going to have to be sworn in, yes, and subject to cross-examination.
He has
I
to.
don't see him on the list of people that are participants in.
He's in as an attendee. He has to unmute himself.
Perry?
Okay, yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Good. If I may, Perry, could you give us a little bit of background about your education and background?
Certainly. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I hold that license since 1980. And it is current. I studied civil engineering at New Jersey Institute of Technology and hold a Bachelor of Science from that institution, where I also did some graduate study in the field of environmental engineering.
And you're currently employed by whom, Perry?
Mazzolini and Fury Engineering, Inc., business address 30 Madison Avenue in Paramus.
Okay, if I may. Perry, we prepared the site plan for this particular application, am I correct?
Yes,
If you could just basically give the board an idea of some of the existing conditions of the property?
Mr. Suresti, we need to recognize Mr. Frenzel as an
Exactly.
expert initially. Can I just ask a couple of questions? Mr. Frenzel, have you testified before the Wyckoff Planning or Zoning Boards before?
I have testified once before the Wyckoff Planning Board. And if I could brag, at one time I was the chairman thereof.
Oh, really? Okay.
Somewhere between John Schlenker and Gordon Stanley a good number of years ago.
Okay.
But I have
And, well, it's good to have you back. And what other towns have you testified as an engineer before?
I've testified before almost every town in Bergen County, towns in Passaic County, Hudson County, Essex County, Middlesex, Union, and Monmouth County.
Okay. The board will recognize Mr. Frenzel as an expert he's going to be as an expert engineer, correct, Mr.
That
Smith?
is correct. That is correct.
Okay, proceed.
Okay, Perry, if you could go over some of the existing conditions. if you-
Rob,
quickly.
doesn't
Yes.
he have to be sworn in?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have to
Yes,
swear
right.
him in. Oh, I'm sorry. Raise your right hand, please, Mr. Frenzel. Do you
Okay,
swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Now you can proceed.
Okay, Perry, you want to go over the existing conditions of this property?
Certainly. At the current time, the property is vacant. The existing dwelling that sat on the property has been demolished. The property slopes generally from Vance Avenue toward the rear of the property. It drops in grade approximately 18 to 20 feet over the 250-foot depth of the property. There are some good number of trees on the property. Those are identified on our site plan. And I assume there will be discussion about those trees to be removed. There are no other structures on the property at this point in time. And really, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, Perry, if you would, as far as the zoning datum for this particular project, without going through all of the bulk variant, all the bulk requirements and so forth, are there any variances involved in this application?
From our evaluation, there are no variances associated with either the dwelling as the primary structure, nor the proposed deck as an accessory structure.
And if you could, would you provide us with an overview of the storm management plan for this site?
Certainly. If you look at the site plan, to the rear of the house, at the southeasterly corner, you'll see two circles with a dot in the middle thereof. Those are seepage pits, recharge chambers. The system is designed to capture the runoff from the entire roof area and the driveway, as well as other impervious areas on the site. It would channel that water into the two seepage pits, and from there, it would recharge into the subsurface groundwater table.
Now, I believe your firm did the drainage calculations and submitted them to the board. Am I correct?
Yes, we did.
Do you see any adverse effect on any of the adjoining properties with reference to this design?
No, as a matter of fact, this design would reduce the amount of water that would run off the property. As I see it from the photos I was able to find of the property when it was developed, I saw no evidence of any sort of storm recharge basins like we're proposing. So this would mean that there will not be an increase in runoff, and there should be a significant decrease in runoff from this proposed development.
And what about the septic design for this project? Could you basically comment on that?
We're proposing a new septic system. The septic field located in the rear, we'll call it the northeast corner of the property. That's where the disposal field would be located. Adjacent to the north side of the house would be the septic tank. It's a gravity system. It doesn't require any pumps or any pre-treatment system. So it's basically a simple septic system designed for a 5-bedroom house.
Now, I'd like to focus a little bit on the grade of the property, especially on the north side of the property. I believe you're proposing a retaining wall along the northerly section of the property.
Yes, we are.
Maybe if you could explain the reason for that wall.
Certainly. If you look at the site plan again, you'll see that the garage area is on the northerly side of the lot. The difference in grade from the proposed finished floor of the garage area and the lot means that we have to add some fill in this area in order to get the driveway to a proper slope to get into and out of the garages. That slope differs, that elevation of the pavement area would differ slightly from the existing grade, in some places as much as 3 feet. And that's why we put this retaining wall in. The area between the wall and the house would be filled. The area on the north side of the wall, between the north side of the wall and the property line, would basically be at the existing grade.
And what is the length of this retaining wall, Perry?
That retaining wall is approximately 120 to 140 feet long.
Okay, and you submitted a design, I believe you did submit a design for the construction of that wall?
We have proposed a modular block wall. One of the comments in Mr. DeGennaro's review is that he will expect design calculations to support the stability of that wall. We will gladly provide that.
And if you could, you had submitted a landscape plan, am I correct?
Yes, we had.
Could you basically review the number of trees that are going to be removed from the site and why?
In total, there are 49 trees that we have identified for removal from the site. Those are shown on the landscape plan. What I've done to try to add some further meaning to the 49 number is I've broken those trees down based on the different areas of the site and the impacts on those trees. For example, in the area of the septic field, there are 7 trees. They would definitely have to be removed to accommodate the septic system. In the driveway area, there are 7 trees immediately at the edge of or within the proposed pavement area. There's 1 tree where the seepage pit retainage system is proposed. There are 4 trees within the grading area on the south side of the proposed dwelling. The dwelling is being raised approximately 2 feet or more above the existing grade, and we would grade down from the structure toward the property line. Those trees would be buried a couple of feet in the fill if they were left there. That's not a good practice. That's almost fatal to a tree, is burying it in that much fill material. We're suggesting they be removed. There are 3 trees where the retaining wall is to be constructed. There are 15 trees in the rear of the property between the back of the house and the area of the septic system. That area is scheduled to be regraded completely. If you look at the site plan again, you will see going from bottom to top, a few feet off the back of the proposed dwelling, there's an existing stone retaining wall in that area to afford the property owner some form of a backyard with an evenly graded surface rather than a stepped condition with the retaining wall. We're proposing to fill between the back of the house and the proposed septic disposal field. That area would require a reasonable amount of fill. But again, the fill will be a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet higher in some places than the base of the existing trees. And that is not a proper growing condition for trees and often is a fatal condition.
Perry, with reference to landscaping, what are we adding to the property as far as landscaping?
The landscape plan is the third sheet in the plan. We've added a few different things. We've added flowering cherry trees along either side of the driveway. We've added a rather large holly species that gets up to 10, 12 feet tall eventually, or more, along the side property lines. Along the top of the retaining wall near the garages and on the opposite side of the house along the property line, we've added a row of arborvitae to provide some screening in that area for the adjoining property owners. The arborvitae will basically block the view of the garage from the house to the north. And we've added some foundation plantings in the form of boxwoods, cypress, spreading cypress, and hydrangea to add some interest around the house. That's basically what we've done.
Okay, and if we could, Perry, do you want to cover the soil movement condition?
Sure.
The soil movement.
Certainly. The soil movement volume is generated by a few different factors. Like I already said, in order to raise the driveway, the current driveway has a reasonably steep slope of about 10%. We wanted to raise that a little bit to make that a little safer and a little easier. So in order to accommodate that, one, we had to raise the driveway. That requires fill. And two, we raised the house approximately 2 feet higher at the finished floor than the original house was prior to its demolition. The area behind the house, between the house and the septic system, as I said, would be filled to eliminate the retaining wall and to provide an evenly graded transition area from the back of the house down to the level of the rear of the yard. Numerically, what we're proposing in this plan is basically an excavation of approximately 372 cubic yards. That would be primarily for the basement of the new house and for the seepage pit and the septic system. There would be a fill required. We would reuse whatever material we excavated that was suitable. The septic material would, in all likelihood, have to be taken off site if we intrude into the existing septic system. We would fill the driveway. That would require about 400 yards. General grading in the rear of the house, the sides of the house, would require about 780 cubic yards. And the garage slab would require fill material beneath that. Since it's higher than the basement level, that's about 97 cubic yards. So what we're proposing is a total cut of about 372 cubic yards, a total fill of about 1,289 cubic yards, which would mean that approximately 917 yards of material would have to be brought onto the site.
I have no further questions, Perry.
I have a question of Mr. Frenzel. Mr. Frenzel, is there any reason why there's no screening proposed in the back of the property?
There's no particular reason that screening was not put there. I believe if it's the pleasure of the board, the applicant would certainly entertain that suggestion.
Okay. Any board members have any questions of Mr. Frenzel?
Well, I'd like to talk about the landscape plan, but I'd rather hear from Glenn Seatsma about it first. If we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the way we should probably handle that, Rudy, is why don't we ask, before we get to Glenn Seatsma, we see if there's any other questions of Mr. Frenzel, and at least initially, and then we could hand it back over to him. Does anybody have any other questions regarding what Mr. Frenzel has testified to at this point?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Mr. DeGennaro.
Hello, Mr. Frenzel. I reviewed the plans and a couple of thoughts that I have and questions. With regard to the retaining wall that's proposed on the northerly side, there's a 30-inch tree that seems to be straddling the property line, but it looks, you have it shown as predominantly on the neighbor's property.
Right.
That's a large tree. I mean, there's, you're taking out a lot of trees on the property, if not almost all of them, because of the grading and the septic. But I think that retaining wall is going to be close, at 4 feet off the line. It's going to be a little close to the tree roots that may compromise that tree. And I think you need to shift that wall or end it shorter, but you really need to stay away from the drip line of that tree if we're looking to protect it. So my recommendation would be that we make sure we show tree protection around that tree and also relocate the wall slightly to make sure that you're far enough away from any collateral damage to the tree roots.
Mark, is that the tree that, again, is on the property line, almost at the easterly end of the wall?
It's right at the end of the wall, basically, yes.
Okay, I see it. I don't see that as a problem. We can either put a dog leg in that wall, or we can bend that wall into the property.
Okay.
Give you that.
The other questions I had were, and I might as well just, we'll discuss them here. This way it's easier and you can take notes on the conversation. On the septic design.
Hey, Mark, just for clarity, is that tree is the one that has a 30-inch on it?
Yep.
That's the one you're talking about? Okay.
Yep. On the septic design, I know this is a new house, so you really have no point of reference, but there's a note on the plan, I believe, that says the contractor must contact survey to obtain a benchmark prior to start of work.
Yeah.
I didn't see a benchmark on the plan, so I guess that's the instruction you're giving the contractor, that he's got to contact you to set the benchmark.
Yes, we often do that in the way we deal with contractors and builders.
Okay. And by the same token, I would ask that when you set the benchmark, you also stake out the corners of the field location, because absent the tie points, I find that contractors sometimes don't place the field where they're supposed to place it. And being that you got it exactly at 10 feet from the property line, that's the absolute closest you can go. There's too much room for error without the stakeout.
We have no problem with that.
Okay. Also, I'll just point out that in your section AA sanitary disposal field, the filter media you have listed still as 3/4 inch stone. Your notes on the general notes call for NJDOT number 3, number 4 washed, which is acceptable, but the contradictory note on the profile is that it shows 3/4 stone, and that's no longer acceptable. The construction sequence you list on the plan doesn't address or consider the septic. When do you expect the septic to be built?
We would expect the septic to be built first, because there's going to have to be excavating and trucking activity that would impact the rest of the site.
Okay.
Generally, that's the way we prefer to see it.
Yeah, I would agree. It didn't contemplate it here, so I think you need to lay it out so that somebody knows, the contractor knows that he's got to build a septic first. And that'll help because you'll be able to reutilize some of the excavated material on the site for the fill that you're going to need.
Yeah, right. That's what we're counting on as well.
Yeah. I noticed that you've included the note. I just want to confirm it for the record, please, that before we bring in any fill, we need a manifest and a certification of the origins of the fill and that it's known to be clean for residential purposes.
And JDEP, non-residential, direct contact,
Yes.
not a problem.
All right.
We did put that note on the plan, I believe.
Okay. And your office did submit structural calculations already for the wall. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but I have those.
Okay, that's a while ago. I do remember that now.
Yep. What are the plans with the existing well on the property? Is there going to be an investigation on that? Is it going to be re-drilled? Is it going to be rehab? What's the plan?
At this point, we've not discussed that with the property owner. We would certainly initiate that discussion very soon and keep you in the loop on that just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, it's in the front yard. I would imagine that's where you're going to have to keep it to maintain the minimum setbacks to other adjacent septics as well as your own, unless you case it. I don't see that being a problem. But we should have some information on that, and I will guide you that a licensed well driller would have to be involved for the permitting process as well.
Okay, understood.
I'm going to just navigate slightly into the landscape plan quickly. But I know Mr. Seetsma is the skilled professional in this field, so I'm going to leave the bulk of it to him. But one of the things that I noticed is you're proposing the screening along the north and south property lines to be emerald green arborvitae. To my knowledge, that's an aphrodisiac for deer, and you're in deer country. So my suggestion, and I would defer to Glenn for his expertise, would be the green giant arborvitae species. And I would also probably ask to see if we can get the plantings. You have 13 plants on the north side, spaced at around 4-foot centers across a distance of about 50 feet. I would like to see if you could extend that down further towards a 30-inch oak, equally spaced. And I think with the green giant arborvitaes, if you're going with 6 to 7 footers, you could probably put them in around 6 foot center to center and still probably have the same 6 or 7 foot center to center. You still have the same amount of trees. And I would suggest the same thing on the other side to match.
Okay, that's not a problem.
Also, what this plan's not showing is, I think there's a 36-inch oak tree between the house and the southerly property line, right along the side of the house, someplace in there. You can see there's 2 12s that are coming down next to each other. Oh, I think that's the 36. That's it there. It's coming down, right? That's right there close to the middle hydrangea.
Right.
Okay, so that's the 36. All right, never mind. Scratch that. And I would also recommend some deciduous trees. There's nothing on your landscape plan that's giving us any deciduous trees at all. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Seetsma.
Mark, before we go to Glenn, I have a question about the wall.
Okay.
I'm looking at the design here on the site plan. These are those like ribbed blocks, like the vertically ribbed blocks, like brown or reddish color, whatever they are.
Yeah, it's like
Am I
those
correct?
keystone blocks that we have at Memorial Field.
With the vertical ribs in them. I'm just trying to
They're
picture
split
what we have.
faced. They're like, they're split faced. I don't know if they're vertical ribs. I think they're just split faced and they look textured.
It's almost like a rock face. It's not necessarily a vertically textured block.
Like a cut stone?
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like.
And that will be facing the neighbor at his grade, am I correct?
That's correct.
I never found those walls to be too attractive.
Rudy, I think with the planting, that if we continue the planting down toward that 30-inch oak, that the planting will kind of hide that wall.
I don't see, oh, wait a minute, I'm not looking at the landscape. plan.
Sheet 3.
Yeah, hold on.
Glenn, you're suggesting continuing the arborvitae's along essentially the whole length of the retaining wall?
Yes, and then I agree with Mark. I think we should go both sides, leaving it out. And we should increase the size. They're specking 5 to 6 foot, but 6 to 7 foot, 6 foot on center. Probably arrive at the same amount of trees, but we'll get a little more height to start.
All right,
Also,
I'll hold my comments about the wall then until we hear about the arborvitae. All right, I'm sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
so I would agree with Mr. DeGenero on increasing the height on the arborvitae and changing the species to the green giants. I also feel with the amount of trees that are coming down, and really there's no viable trees on the site, especially with all the grading and such that's taking place. But I would recommend that we get at least 8 to 10 shade trees of at least 3-inch caliper planted throughout the site. I think there's plenty of room, but we need to replace some of those trees that are coming down.
Do you have
Any particular locations you're suggesting?
That's what I was going to ask.
There's plenty of room for these. Backyard, you could probably do 5 or 6 trees, and you could do 3 in the front yard. There's plenty of room on site to do that. You're taking 49 down. We can easily get another 8 or 10 trees back in there.
We'll make that
sorry?
adjustment to the landscape plan and we'll resubmit it to Mr. DeGenero for a look.
Yeah, maples, some oak trees, maybe even some linden trees. Okay.
That's fine.
And as far as the screening in the back, I kind of agree with Chairman. You could do maybe a few Norway spruce back there, or even the green giants. I don't necessarily think you need a screening or a line, maybe just, scattering of some evergreens back there just to soften that up for the backyard neighbor there.
Would you prefer to see a mix of species rather than a straight line of a single species there?
I would do either Norway spruce or green giants. I wouldn't mix them.
Okay.
Otherwise, the landscape plan itself, that seems to suit the property, the front of the house. I think it's going to be fine.
Just so it's clear, with the side screening on each side, just so I'm clear on what Mr. DeGenero and Glenn, what you're recommending. You're recommending, I guess what you said with regard to the north side where the retaining wall is, to change the species, make them larger and extend them essentially the length of the wall?
Correct.
And are you proposing essentially matching on the other side with
I
the
would.
same
Yeah.
length?
I mean, they're starting out on the west side, the same distance, same across. So I would continue with down same also.
Yeah, they're proposing 13 trees bush or evergreens on the north side, and they're proposing 11 on the south side. So I think if they're changing the species because it's warranted to change them, to extend the same distance along both sides and line both sides of the property with the green giants, and that would be a benefit, I think, to both sides of the property and the neighbors.
Yeah, we got-
That would be for a distance equal to the length of the wall on both sides.
Well, yeah, you can't go all the way towards the front of the wall because you got two large trees there. You got a 10 and a 12 large,
Yeah.
10 and a 12. And, you know, you're not going to be able to get them in there to crowd them. You want them to survive. You don't want them to be shaded. So I would,
Well, how about if you move them back in, away from the property line a little bit where those other trees are?
on the upper side of the wall, I guess they could do that.
Either side. Let me draw an analogy here to what's being proposed on the sides of the house. This is like the little piece of rope that the sumo wrestler wears, okay? It's a massive, massive house. And those few trees barely, they provide screening, but you're going to see everything all around it because it's a massive house. And, you know, I think the longer the length along the property line that we can provide that arborvitae screening, the more we are serving the purpose of what screening is for.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Rudy. I mean, I guess they'd probably have to double the number of arborvitaes approximately.
I think, especially on the southerly side properties, well, there's a tree there too. I like Glenn's suggestion about the length of the wall on either side of the house, from front to back.
Yeah, I agree. Can I ask a question just for clarity? The proposed backyard is proposed to be level with the house, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I was a little confused because where it's a proposed lawn area and there was a line, I wasn't sure if there was any. So there's really no change in grade when you go from the back of the house to the back of the property after the fill's in place. Is that correct?
No, it slopes downward toward the back of the property from the back of the house. There's no question about that. But we're eliminating the retaining wall that's in there, so it's a constant gradual slope toward the rear of the property rather than the step that's in there now.
Okay. And you don't foresee, I mean, I don't want to get off the landscaping yet, but you don't foresee any issue with the runoff off I understand you're putting seepage pits in to catch the water coming off the house, but you don't see any problem with runoff onto the rear property due to the slope?
The regrading would go from the house down to the house side of the septic field, let's call it that, which is about 40 feet in from the rear property line. From that point to the rear property line, the grading would remain pretty much as it is today. It's really not scheduled to be changed or the slope of that area increased in any way. So I don't really see that that's going to be a problem. Plus, you have along a portion of that rear property line, you do have a partial stone wall back there. That's not going to be removed or disturbed.
Is that your feeling, Mark, as well? Do you have an opinion, Mark, on the potential runoff of the site based on the pitch in the back?
Yeah, I was muted, so you couldn't hear me, but the majority of the water is going to be coming down the driveway and the roof leaders from the roof, and they're all being connected into the dry well. And the driveway is curbed and it's got an inlet and a drain. So I'm satisfied that the pitch of the slope isn't going to increase runoff or cause a problem greater than what exists today.
Okay.
What exists today?
I'm sorry?
The runoff.
I'm sorry?
What you said greater than exists today? I think I don't know if I take comfort in that statement or not, Mark.
It will not be greater than what exists today, which means it's a zero net increase in runoff.
Well, if they're doing all this work there, they ought to try to make it less than exists today,
Well,
if there is any runoff.
I think it'll likely achieve that, but our ordinance says zero net increase in runoff, and that's what the design criteria is.
Well, now I guess there's no lawn in the back now. Now it's all dirt. So I guess
Woods, it's woods.
it's wood, right?
Which
Without
absorbs-
any lawn, but if this is going to be lawn in the back, I would assume that the lawn will absorb more water than what's currently existing there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Were there any other
Yes.
any other clarification? Any other
As far
questions,
as-
clarifications on the landscaping before we get
Yeah.
off that?
The landscaping, as far as the air conditioning units are concerned, they're off the northeast corner of the house. I'd like to see, it's typical, we get evergreen screening around the units, at least from view from the sideline. And then I would ask is there a generator going to be proposed for this house? And if so, where would it go?
We've not been told to show a generator by the applicant at this point in time. Perhaps the architect has a better handle on that.
Okay, so that's fine. If there's no generator proposed, that's fine. And if they decide at a later point they want to add a generator, they're obviously going to have to obtain a separate permit for that and have to locate it on the plan with appropriate screening as well. And it has to conform to the setback. So that'll be approved at that time. That's not an issue. But the screening around the air conditioning units should also be included on your landscape plan.
Okay, very good.
Does
I have
anybody?
nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
I said I have nothing else.
There's nothing further. Glenn, Mr. Seitz, do you
Yes,
have anything else to add?
I just want to confirm that there's going to be an irrigation system installed.
Thank you.
We assume there will be. We will note our plans accordingly.
And one last thing, Mr. Frenzel, just when you're instructing your landscape architect to plant and spot the trees, please make sure that they are located within the property line limits and not in the public right of way.
Okay, that's not a problem, sure.
And as I'm looking at this, there's no piers shown on the plan. Oftentimes they become an afterthought. If their piers do decide to become a reality, they need to be spotted within the property lines and not in the public right of way.
Okay, so noted.
Thank you.
What do you
I
mean by,
promise, that's it. I have nothing further.
Mark, what do you mean by piers?
Piers. The light stanchion piers at the end of driveways.
Oh, okay. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions of Mr. Frenzel? I assume you're going to bring your architect on next, Mr.
He's available,
Swansky?
yes. Mhm.
Anybody have
Chairman,
any?
I have two more. Well, one is just a reconfirmation, and I have another question on a completely different subject. Just so we're clear that the arborvitae will be, for all intents and purposes, the length of the wall on both the north and the south sides of the house along the side property lines. Am I correct on that?
That's my understanding.
Okay, just so we're clear on that.
We would.
And the other is on a
Condition
completely
of any
different matter.
approval.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said we would make that a condition of.
Yeah,
any
yeah.
approval.
I just want to be clear on it, that's all. The well, you're drilling a well, a new well, do I get that correct?
No, there is a well that's there today. We don't have any information on the condition of that well, whether it needs to be replaced or whether the the applicant can use it or if there's another water source. So that's an issue that we have to investigate. We discussed that earlier with Mr. DeGennaro. We told him we'd keep him in the loop on that. But that investigation has to be undertaken to determine if that is a usable well or if it is a potential water source for the dwelling.
Is that well servicing the house that was removed?
Apparently it was.
Okay. Have you approached the water utility for a hookup?
No, we have not. We're not really at that point in the game yet, but we will talk to the water utility as needed.
Would you please advise Mr. DeGennaro what the answer is?
Certainly.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks, Chairman.
Hey, Rob,
Yes.
quick question. This is my first meeting, so forgive me
man.
if
Go
I
ahead.
say something outlandish here, but just from experience, from what I've seen and from building a house, I see there's the access on the north side for the construction vehicles and whatnot, and going down to the south, and there's it's higher elevation to lower elevation. Is there any remediation for any storm drains in the street? I know that's the Vance Avenue side, because I know if you get some heavy rain, what happens is the silt fence doesn't really retain anything. So I don't know if you can put hay or something to block any runoff from that end. Because I know personally that's a big issue too. You get all the debris and all the mud that runs into the street.
What we would do is note the plan that the contractor must install inlet filters, which are a pretty standard piece of a soil erosion plan. It's a piece of filter fabric that's put inside of a catch basin downslope from a site for the sole purpose of catching any sediment that runs off from the site before it gets into the stormwater system.
Is that standard, Mr. Frenzel, or that's something that? we
No,
would have-
that's absolutely standard. I think Mark will back me up on that one.
Mark?
It is.
Mark, are you on mute?
Yeah, I was.
That's okay.
Did you ask me a question?
Mr. Frenzel said it was standard to put those filters in.
Inlet filters, Mark.
Yeah, that's standard soil erosion control. It'll probably be on his soil erosion control measure plan.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any storm drains up on that side, but the benefit here is I'm not too concerned about it, only because the road is higher than the property. So there's not going to be too much running off the site towards the street. It's going to be running down towards the septic field.
Okay.
But that'll be addressed on the soil erosion control plan.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of Mr. Frenzel before we move on to the architect? No? Okay. Mr. Suresti, you can bring your next witness.
Okay, Peter?
Rob,
Yes.
excuse me, do we want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Maureen, thanks for stopping me. Yes, you're right. We should open to the public. We have the public feed, Maureen?
We have two, aside from Perry, we have Mr. Howard Goldman and Mr. John Bolick.
Okay, so we're going to open it up. At this point, it's for the public only as to questions of the engineers. So just so the members of the public understand, there's going to be an open public session at the end of the presentation when any comments can be made or as to the application. But now it would be only as to questions of the engineer and as to what Mr. Frenzel testified to. So if anybody has, if any member of the public is present and has questions of Mr. Frenzel, please identify yourself. I guess, Maureen, call them up one at a time.
Mr. Goldman, if you want to ask any questions or comment about the engineer testimony, you can unmute
Yes,
yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Jill Goldman, owner of 495 Berkeley Drive. So my backyard matches up to this property's backyard. So my largest concern, which you guys have been discussing, is the drainage issue, since so many trees are going to be taken down, and it seems as if you have a plan in place, but I'm very concerned that it's an existing problem. I don't know if you guys know that and my neighbor, John, who I think is also on, we have this consistent issue of runoff into our yards. So I just am concerned that even if you have this plan in place, that when all is said and done, it can be the same or worse. And then what happens when the house is already built?
What kind of runoff are you
So-
getting now? Is it just water? Is it muddy water? What?
Yes.
Explain
it's
what
everything. It's a mess. Yeah, it's muddy water.
And was this a problem when the house was there as well, or is it only
Yes.
since the house was knocked down?
It's always been a problem.
And always that side of the property.
Yeah, and I don't know
The south
direction.
side.
The south side of the property. So,
Mr. Frenzel, you want to address that?
I think there are a couple of answers. In the current condition and the condition when the house was still standing there, basically every bit of water that fell onto the property and onto the house drained toward the southerly property line and toward the back of the property. From what we could see from photos, none of it was captured. None of it was channeled into a stormwater recharge system like has been proposed, which is pretty standard for new houses. Like Mr. DeGennaro said, the standard is that the development cannot increase the amount of runoff from a site in the post-development condition. So we've had to compensate for that. The backyard is going to be more open. It's going to be grassed, where now it's basically a relatively barren forest floor, for lack of a better term. It's not a manicured lawn.
I know, I look at it every day. I know what it looks like.
Well,
I didn't know. I thought you were going to be grading the backyard, and then you said it's going to remain the slope that it is. So, I mean, like I said, I'm concerned that when this whole project is over, if there's still an issue, what is my recourse at that point? Like, I'm just nervous. That's all.
And that's understandable, certainly. But like I said in my testimony, 40 feet, approximately 40 feet from your property line back toward the new house will remain at the same slope that it is now. We're not increasing the slope. We're not increasing the velocity of any runoff. And we're going to improve it. It's going to be a grassed surface.
Okay.
not what it is now. So we are confident that the plan will not have a negative impact on you, for sure.
Mr. Seatsma, can I ask you, what is your, with regard to, I mean, I know you're not necessarily a drainage expert, but as far as with a lawn going in the back, is it your feeling that would create less runoff than currently exists?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's going to absorb.
Even taking down 48 trees, the grass will make a bigger difference than removing of the trees.
Obviously, the root system on the trees absorb a lot more water.
Exactly.
But the grass will certainly provide a better situation than what you have there now, yes.
Okay.
And keep in mind, all the runoff from the house, you're going into the seepage pits. So
Right.
the only runoff that you'll, at least based on the plan that's been presented, that would be running towards the back of the property would be water that fell actually right on the ground itself. Is that correct?
That
Mr.
is correct.
Renzo?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we would capture the water from the entire roof and the water from the entire driveway, which is a very significant percentage of the site area.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
all of this and all of this.
Do you have any other questions or concerns or with regard to the engineer, Mrs. Goldman?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else, Maureen, on the line with regard to, again, this is only as to questions or with regard to what the engineer has testified to?
Mr. Bullock?
Yes, I guess I don't have anything to add to what Mrs. Goldman just said. I'm to the side of her, so I'm not directly behind the property, but I'm very familiar with the runoff problem here. I have some issues myself, and between the two of us, Mrs. Goldman and I are always concerned about the runoff. That not that either one of us are fighting about it all the time, but it's been an issue ever since I've been here, and I've been here for 40 years. So, so anything that makes it at all worse would be concerning to both of us. The only thing that I guess I would add to the discussion is I realize the slope of the lawn on the property in question isn't changing for like 40 feet behind Mrs. Goldman, but between that and the house, it's much steeper. It's going to be much steeper than it was before. There's going to be quite a little hill there where the property is raised up, and I don't know how that enters into the equation.
Mr. Frenzel?
It's not all that much steeper than it was. Yes, we're eliminating the retaining wall and eliminating that step. But in the current condition, what happens is the area between what was the pre-existing house and the retaining wall, anything that fell on that area would run toward the retaining wall, either down behind the retaining wall or over the retaining wall in an intense rainfall, and still go toward the rear of the property. And anything between the retaining wall and the rear of the property also ran toward the rear. The increase in the slope is not drastic. It may vary a foot and a half, in its worst case, maybe 2 feet from what it is today. But rather than the relatively barren soil condition that exists in the area where the trees are in the backyard, again, it's going to be a topsoil seeded and grassed area, which should serve to deter runoff from encroaching onto the properties behind the site. So it's our belief that the condition as proposed will help the situation and certainly not hurt the situation.
And Mr. Seedsman, just so I'm clear, you had recommended that there were that the applicant put 8 to 10 shade trees throughout the property. I guess primarily they would be in the back. And you're also recommending, in addition to that, I think you said, was it Norway spruces along some of them along the back line of the property? So that would be in addition to the 8 to 10 shade trees you mentioned?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So there would be, and my understanding is subject to approval, the applicant has agreed to doing that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there would be some additional, I mean, if those 8 to 10 shade trees are going to go in, most of them, I think, are going to have to go in the backyard. And then there would be additional plantings, trees along the back property line. So there would be some, in addition to the lawn, I guess there would be some trees in the back, maybe not as many as there are now, but there would be some. Mr. Bullock, do you have any other questions of the engineer?
No, I guess this is more, would probably be more of an issue for Mrs. Goldman than me, but I'm just curious. Do I understand correctly? Because the rock wall that extends along the property line is behind Mrs. Goldman and me, and I assume everyone agrees that nothing's being done to that rock wall along the property line?
That's correct.
That's going to remain as is?
Yes, it will.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Well, you know, if you were, the architect is going to come on, so if you have questions of the architect when he's done, you're free to ask
Right.
questions
Thank
at
you.
that point. Thank you. Maureen, is there anybody else on the line? Maureen?
Nobody else.
Nobody else on the line?
No other callers.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comment as to the applicant's engineer, and Mr. Suresti, you can call your next witness.
Yes, I'm going to call Peter Khalil.
Yes, sir.
So doesn't sound like
He
this-
will need to be
Sworn in.
qualified as an expert and then sworn in, Mr. Suresti.
Yeah.
Or
Or vice
Hello.
versa.
Well, why don't we swear him in first?
Yeah,
Because if
vice
he's
versa.
testifying to his credentials, you'd want that under oath. I'm sorry, I missed that up, I missed my previous. Mr. Cool,
He should
Uh,
really be, he should be on video,
on
okay.
video?
Yeah, no problem. I'm here.
at
Hello.
least to be sworn.
Where is
Peter,
he?
you want to raise your right
Everyone,
hand?
everyone see me now?
Yes.
Yeah, you're on. He's
How
on.
are you?
You want to, it's fine.
Okay.
It was a very long day, actually. I
yeah,
was like 6 hours driving all day long.
so
Yes. Would you raise your right hand, please?
I guess I open it up to the board later on.
Mr. Khalil,
Yes.
raise your right hand, please.
Question of
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Here's what we can do.
Yes.
Would
I
you
do.
state your name, your business affiliation, and address?
And ask.
My name is Peter Khalil.
Last
I'm
night,
working for
what happened?
AS Architecture.
Can somebody tell,
Yeah.
sorry.
Is somebody's talking in the background? I don't know if it's.
Yeah, I think the
Goldman,
Goldmans were not
but
muted.
somebody.
I just muted them.
Okay.
I just muted
Okay.
them. I think. Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
Sounds
Sorry.
better.
No problem.
Okay,
My name is Peter Khalil. I'm working for AS Architecture LLC. I'm for about 15 years now. I'm AIA associate. I'm not licensed with New Jersey yet, but my employer is a licensed in New Jersey, and he's not available. I'm representing him today. I'm the responsible for the design and the project manager of the house.
okay. Let me ask you this, Mr. Khalil. Were you involved in the production of the architectural drawings that were submitted today?
Yes,
Okay. And you did that in affiliation with a licensed New Jersey architect?
yes, I did.
Have you, you testified?
Now,
Go ahead, Kim.
I'd like to hear a little bit about your educational background.
Okay, I'm a bachelor degree in architecture design from Egypt, Cairo University. I have a certificate of construction management. I have been working for a company for construction and architecture design, and also I'm working for AS Architecture. This is my education about bachelor degree and certificate, and about over 15 years experience of the architecture and the construction field.
Mr. Khalil, are you licensed architect in any state in the United States?
Not yet. I'm registering in Florida, and I did not receive my license yet, but I'm working with a licensed architect in AS Architecture. He's the employer. He's the owner of the company.
Okay. Have you ever testified before a planning board or a zoning board in New Jersey before?
No.
This will be your first time?
Yes.
Kevin, any issue with the fact that he's not licensed, but he is working under a licensed architect?
That's why I asked him that question. And also, he has educational background. He worked under the supervision of a licensed architect, and he was involved in the production of the drawings. Yeah, this is a call for the board. I mean, normally we have licensed professionals, so that is a problem. But the purpose of an expert is to be able to explain to the layman concepts that are specialized. Licensing is definitely important. I haven't done any research on it to determine whether it's dispositive of the issue, because this is the first time I've been involved in many years of doing this where someone has presented themselves as an expert who is not licensed.
I think also, Kevin, he's being called for very limited testimony. When we met on December the 9th, the board wanted to know the materials used on the building, the height of the building, and the elevations. So I feel the limitation of his testimony here shouldn't be a deterrent to qualifying him as a witness here.
Well, I think we can recognize him as an expert for testimony as to with the limitations that you've imposed, Mr. Seretsky. I would be comfortable with that. Does anybody on the board have an issue?
Question. Do we, Mr. Iman Sedra, who I assume is the principal of AS Architectural, did he submit a letter or send us an email indicating that he would not, because I believe he's the person who
he signed the seal.
He did not. It was very short notice.
Did we have any sort of, if I may say, did we have any sort of a communication from him indicating why he is not available and that he would have this gentleman appear in his stead? And if not, why not?
No, he did not.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he did not submit any letter or anything regarding this, but he's not available today due to it was like very short notice, and his schedule was full, and he's out of the state. So I was involved from the day one in the design and the construction documents development. So
Mr. Seretsky,
me to represent him. If any issue, not a big deal. We can, he can join in another day or something for the testimony. If this is really an issue, just represent him.
Well, again, I will only offer this witness for very limited testimony. He's only going to testify as to the elevation of the structure. He's only going to testify as to the height of the ridge from both the average grade plane as well as the lowest grade point on the plan, and also basically the materials. So it's very, very limited, and I don't feel it should be a
That's all well, but my question is one of procedural, and I haven't got an answer. Mr. Seretsky, were you aware that we were going to have a substitute tonight?
Well, I was only aware of it recently. I didn't know. First of all,
How recent?
I was not aware that Mr. Khalil was not a licensed architect. Okay, that I was not aware of. I know he was actively involved in the design of this house because I had spoken to him about it. So I just had assumed that he was licensed.
Is Mr. Khalil is going to testify as to what is essentially, when you say with regard to the height and the materials, is that all reflected on the plan already?
It is. Yes, it is. It's a 2-page plan. You have it. It's, I think.
No, we have the plan. I understand. I haven't looked at every specific detail on it. So, normally the architect would come on and would, explain in more detail what's here. So I think it's one thing if he's basically just pointing out what's already on the plan. It's another thing if he's going to elaborate on items that may not be reflected on the plan. And it is possible that the members of the board would ask questions that may not be exactly within the purview of what's on the plan. That's what my concern is that
Right.
Mr. Khalil may not be in a position to answer questions that the board would may have to which would require a licensed architect. It's one thing to simply state what's on the plans. It's another thing to answer questions that may go beyond what's actually shown on the plans. That's what my concern is.
Well, I think, Mr. Fortunato, your thoughts are well taken. My thinking is let me ask him what his involvement was with reference to the design of this particular residence, and that may be helpful.
Well, what I would suggest at this point, and if any board members, and Rudy, if you have an issue, maybe we can let Mr. Khalil testify and as to what Mr. Suresti is going to ask him to testify to. And if there are issues that come up that we feel need further clarification, and Mr. Khalil is incapable of doing so because he is not a licensed architect, that we could adjourn and bring it back next time.
I've been, and I hate to sound that I say this too often. I've been serving on land use boards in the township since '89, often on planning and zoning. I can't remember ever having a witness such as this who was not a licensed professional. I don't know if we're setting a precedent here. I have a lot of questions. That's all I'm going to say, and I don't want to put the township at risk.
Well, I disagree.
I don't know if anybody else. I'd like to hear from some of the other board members, Mr. Suresti, not you.
I certainly understand your concern, Mr. Boonstra. I mean, I guess that one of the problems is we don't really know where the testimony is going to go, and
well, that's kind of not the point. But I don't want to be. I got a problem with it. The more I think about this, the more I have a problem with it. I'll tell you.
Anybody else on the board have any comments at this point?
Well, may I say something? I think
Yeah, go ahead.
This is my opinion. I think that you suggested, since the plan is sealed, and it is coming from the licensed architect, I feel if we can hear his testimony and if anything deviates outside of what we see on this plan, then we could postpone it for the next month. Can we propose and move forward that way?
Well, that's what I was proposing.
Somebody needs to mute their phone. There's a lot of background noise. Somebody's got to.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Mr. Suresti. I think you would be, whether we decide to proceed tonight, I think you would be better served if you came back with an architect, frankly. So, you know, we can make, without us, we can make a decision on that if you force us to, but, you know, it may be something that you just want to bring it back next time with the licensed architect.
What I was going to suggest is let him testify, and then you'll make a decision afterwards. If you want to hear from Mr. Cedra, who actually signed and sealed the plans, then obviously I would abide by the direction of the board. But if you want, let him testify. Let's hear what he has to say and see if it answers the questions and concerns of the board.
Kevin, where are you with this?
Well, I'll tell you, I have some reservations. As I said, I've been doing this since 1984, and this is the first time that I've had an expert witness come up who hasn't been licensed also.
Yeah.
And there are certain areas where I know judges will not let experts testify unless they're licensed, and that's in many conditions. But in other conditions, you could develop expertise just from your body of work. The way that the courts describe an expert witness is someone who has expertise either by education, experience, licensing, that can explain things that's out of the realm or the purview of a layman. I don't feel particularly comfortable with it, and I think that there are numerous attorneys on this board, and that's why I wanted to revert this back to the board members. I'm not particularly comfortable with it, but we do have testimony from the witness that this was sealed by his employer, who is licensed. He worked on it. He's familiar with the project. He worked on the drawings. If it went up, I could not predict how a judge would rule on it. So in that sense, Mr. Suresti, there could be a problem here for your client. And, and this is something that it's a case of first impression here, it appears. It's a close call. And, I guess my advice would be I'd rather err on the side of caution.
I kind of agree with that. I don't know.
Mr. Suresti, I'm sorry, more, Rudy?
That's yeah. Okay.
Mr. Suresti, I guess, my concern is,
Is there any way that everybody can mute? Because the feedback and the reverb is horrible when someone talks.
Anybody who's not talking regularly, please mute yourself. That sounds better. Mr. Suresti, I guess my concern is this is a very large house that's proposed here. And I know that there's no variances that are being requested and required, but it is a large house. It takes up a large percentage of the lot. And my question would be, I think that there may be questions of the architect with regard to design and things along those lines that may, from the board, and particularly from me, I'm even thinking now, they could very well exceed the testimony of what Mr. Khalil is prepared to testify to. So I don't know how helpful it would be for him to simply testify as to the type of materials being used and the height, whereas if we have more specific questions, he's not going to be able to answer them simply because he's not licensed in the field. I guess that's my concern. So I think the general, after hearing from our legal counsel and from hearing from Mr. Boonstra, who is the liaison from the council and who has been doing this for 30 years, much longer, in fact, than I have been. But in addition to my concerns too, I think at this point, I think that we should adjourn this and come back the next time with a licensed architect.
I've got a lot. I don't want to monopolize the conversation here. Anyone else?
I only remind the board that when we were asked to present the architectural plans that have been submitted, that the only areas of concern were the elevation of the house, the materials used, and the height to the ridge. So the testimony that was going to be.
But I have another question about this that I'm not going to ask now, and I don't know if this gentleman will have an answer for me.
Yeah, Mr. Suresti, I don't think we ever.
When I look at the architecturals, I have questions. And this, now I see the architecturals, I have some questions.
Yeah, I think I will too. And Mr. Suresti, just so it's clear, last time you were here was just with regard to the to completion, and that really had a lot to do with the lack of a landscape plan. I don't think anybody commented at that point on the plans themselves. In fact, I don't think we had the plan at that point.
We didn't. Now I see them. I have questions.
So I don't know where there seems to be an implication that there was some kind of limitation on what was going to be discussed. Once it comes before before the board, even though it's a soil movement plan, my understanding, and Mr. Hanley can correct me if I'm wrong, is, the board is free to ask questions on essentially the whole entire application. So, including the architectural. So it's essential to have at that point a licensed architect who can respond. I'm not so much concerned about your presentation. I'm really more concerned about questions that I may have and other members of the board may have that Mr. Khalil is not going to be qualified to answer. And that's why I think it's going to be, I have one vote as the chair, but it's going to be my recommendation, and based on what Mr. Hanley said, that we not proceed any further tonight with, if you want to present another witness, you can do so, and we can get some more testimony in. But as for the architect, unless I hear objection from other board members, we're not going to hear him tonight.
Well, Rob, am I also hearing it? It's not whether Mr. Khalil is an expert or not. It's just the fact that he's not licensed, which could potentially be a problem for not only us, but for the applicant. And therefore, it's probably best served if we do this again.
Yes.
Not that he's not qualified, it's just that he's not licensed, and that could be.
I'm not suggesting the gentleman doesn't know what he's doing.
Correct.
The fact that he's, when you're licensed, that is that's evidence from the state, from an authority, that you are an expert. I don't know anything about Mr. Khalil. I'm sure he's a very capable man, but he's not licensed in the state of New Jersey as an expert in architecture, and I'm not at this point prepared to find him as one.
Correct. And why go through the motions if we have questions related to that may or may not be acceptable based on just procedural issues more so than anything else.
Right. And there are, and I would note also that there are obviously some interested parties, neighbors on this, so who may have concerns too. So, Mr. Suresti, do you have any other witnesses you want to present now?
No, not at all. It was just the architect and the engineer.
Well,
okay. Well, then what we'll do is we'll adjourn this till the next meeting, and you'll be first on the agenda. You can put your architect on, and then in the meantime, this would also be a good opportunity for your engineer to bring back an amended landscape plan with the suggestions that were made by Mr. DeGennaro and Mr. Seatsma.
Are you suggesting we call Perry again, or I'm not sure why you would want that done before the 10th?
Well, generally
it's a condition of approval, so we have to comply. So it's not.
We generally like to see the amended plan, the amended landscape plan when it's done. I mean, Mark, is that correct? Isn't that generally what we do?
Yeah. Can I just comment on that after Mark? Mark, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, the extent of the changes that we requested to the landscape plan, considerations that we made and recommendations, I think it would be appropriate to get a revised plan, particularly since we're coming back anyway.
Right.
Now, with that said, does that mean the professional, Mr. Frenzel, has to be there? I don't know. I would leave that up to the discretion of the attorney, or the applicant's attorney, I should say. But I think that this is a perfect opportunity to be able to get that revision so we can put eyes on it and feel comfortable that they've addressed the concerns of the board.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're not talking about a couple of.
And what I wanted to point out, Mr. Suresti, if you noted, your engineer gave a very concise, direct examination, and then was cross-examined by the board members for well over an hour. This board is very thorough. They're so thorough that I get writer's cramp trying to take down all the notes because there were so many conditions that were, revisions that were agreed to or stipulated to. I have to write a resolution when this thing is finished, and it would be a lot clearer and a lot more straightforward if I had drawings that coincided with what was agreed to or stipulated to this evening in testimony.
Yeah, I agree. There's some major changes that we've requested on the landscape plan. We're not requesting the addition of a plant here or there. So this would be an opportunity, as Mr. DeGennaro suggested, to come back with an amended plan as to whether or not you want to present. I mean, my advice would be to have, in case there's any deviation from what we discussed, that, my suggestion would be to have Mr. Frenzel available. I mean, it's a Zoom meeting. He doesn't have to come in person. I'm sure we're going to have a remote meeting. So, but that's your call.
No, I can have him available. Obviously, I'm not going to submit a revised plan without having him available.
Okay. Is there any question, Mr. Frenzel, and before we adjourn, as to what we went over with regard to the changes in the plan? Is there any clarification you want before we adjourn?
Perry, are you in?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I have no questions right now. If something comes up in the course of making the revisions, I'll just give Mr. DeGennaro a call, if that's okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. And in fact, if you could give me a ring tomorrow, shoot me an email, and we could touch base tomorrow, I would appreciate that.
Not a problem, Mark.
Okay, before we adjourn, I guess I should open it up to the public. There is no testimony, but I think I should just open it up. Maureen, is anybody from the public there to make any comments? This matter will be carried until the February 10th, Wednesday, February 10th. There'll be no further notice given. But if anybody would like to make a comment from the public before we close, now is your opportunity.
Yeah, but by the same token, Mr. Chairman, I don't think that because the applicant doesn't have his case in yet, I don't, if there's some general comment, that's fine. But if it's going to launch into what their position is, I think they have to wait their turn.
I agree, but let's see. Maureen, is anybody available to begin with?
Mr. Bolick is still in attendance, but Mr. Bolick, do you have anything else?
I agree. Since we haven't heard the final word on the architectural and any questions that you all might raise, I don't have anything for tonight. I'll attend the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bolick. Maureen, anybody else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, I will close the public session, and can I have a motion? Is there any other business that we need to attend to? Anybody? No, if not, a motion to adjourn for the evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Judy? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody, have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Good night.
Night.